Hello there. Um, I hope you're having a good Sunday, and I plan to take a few minutes here to explain what the basics of the landscape building app. So let's have a look. Okay, so what we have here is an empty terrain, and we have placed the lentils app very close to the center, or at the center, wherever you want to have it. But I prefer to have it at the center of a region. So if I show you the top view, um, it's placed at the center. So you can, I guess the best practice would be if you want to use this application to make a very large landscape, then you can place it at the center. Okay. Now let's sign into it. So you will notice that when you sign into this application, you will have a HUD that appears on the left. Okay, so this is the ResMila system HUD. It's a HUD that will be attached to your screen in the top at the top left. So the other thing that I would mention here is let us say this one way of signing in obviously is to click on the sign in button. But if this app is hidden because you have actually placed big objects on top, and of course it's occluded, then you can always find it by clicking on the top left icon here, which would cause this big tall bar to appear, and this will allow you to find it where the app is, and you can click on this bar and you would actually sign into the application. Okay, so we would use the last method for logging only if the app itself is buried under something that you might have added. So just to give you an example, let us say I've placed a hill on top of this application here, and I have scaled it up. Okay, so well, it's already hidden. Okay, so if you have a huge build and it's hidden, then you won't see where to sign in. But fortunately, you can find it by doing this. Okay, by clicking in the top left corner on the icon, and you will get a vertical bar. All right. So once we have this out of the way, I'm going to clear this hill here, and we can start looking at some interesting objects. All right. So there are a few things to know here. What you can, the best way for me to do this is to go and click on Create. That will give you an example of the various types of objects that are available to you with this app. Okay, so you have a set of lentils. Let's look at that. Okay, so let's me place a grid here, this lentil grid, and then we can start placing objects in. All right, so let's say you want to have a fairly flat design. So I would, let's say I want to have like a squarish, flat design here. Okay, so you can see one thing immediately, that you're not spending time to adjust the position of these objects. Okay, they're straightforward, available, and to be snapped into place very very easily. So So that's something that we can see here. The other thing is you have other types of objects that you can use. For example, we can use a rectangle object, and each object has a particular kind of behavior that you will learn about just by using them, okay? So, and if after placing the object on the grid, you want to rotate it, you can, select and rotate the object as needed. So in this case, the designer for this app has decided that the center of this object needed to be at this location here, at this point. So you can see that the rotation is around this point. Okay. But we can, if you have a different designer, designing a different app, they are free to find other ways of specifying where those centers are. Okay. Right. So we have this simple design here, and you can use triangles as well. Let's see how that behaves. Okay. Let me see if I put one here, what happens. Okay. So basically, you can play around with these objects and see how they snap to the grid. Okay, the other object I would want to introduce here is the hexatiles. It's kind of interesting. So let us say I have, I'm going to select, okay, this triangle came up because that was what was selected, okay, but now let me select something else. Let me select a rocky textile, hex tile, and I'm going to place it here. Okay, and you will find that the placement of these objects is always going to snap at one of these, positions. That's one way to place those objects precisely. But if you want to have another tile that's going to snap exactly, on this side and another one on this side, you can actually grow the tile in any particular direction that you want, and you can use this to create a design that you would like. Okay. So once you create the various types of flows, let's call that flows, and you can start adding the other objects on top. Whether you want to add hills or trees or bushes and things like that. So the other aspect that I would want to focus on is, let us say you have rocks, and you want to place the rocks on a surface. So let's check this out. This is going to be a big rock. I'm going to make it smaller by selecting and resizing and downsizing it to something fairly small, because I want to demonstrate something here. So if I remember correctly, I picked the bigger rock, the one at the top, and I'm going to place it on this surface. And you can immediately see one thing here. You can see that the orientation of all these objects are the same. Okay, so if you are actually interested in creating a very organic space, this setup won't look very interesting. But what you can do, you can actually go back to Home, click on Settings, and click on Random. Okay, when you go in the random mode, what happens is that you would be able to create these stone objects and raise them at not only at different angles but also at different sizes. Okay, so what happens is that now you have the possibility of just creating something that's more likely to be viewed as natural. So this randomization function is quite important if you are going to create organic looking seeds, okay, where you don't see a specific pattern, but there is a little variation inbuilt, and it makes things way more natural and inviting, depending of context, of course. So the same thing applies for trees, for example. So if I were to pick this elm tree and I want to place it somewhere here on the green, one of the green tiles, you can see that if I keep like adding all the trees one after the other in one row, well, now it's the randomization function is on already. So you can see that there is already a variation. So that looks okay, that looks nice. But if I were to switch off the randomization mode, let's say I'm going to switch it off, and now I'm going to select, like this maple tree, and I'm going to try to create a row. Let me just start placing it here. So that you can see this. So whenever you find that this icon is not appearing, just right click and it's going to appear. So if I click in a row all these trees, what will happen is they look exactly the same. That might work in some settings, but you can see that this pattern here kind of make things, not so nice. Well, it depends on taste, but especially when you see, look at this. You have a branch here in parallel with this one is in parallel, and it doesn't look that good. I mean, it doesn't happen like this in nature, okay? So even, so what's the advantage of using randomization? For example, another one would be if you want to create a mountain using hills, and you use randomization, then you can quickly build a mountain, just using this approach. So I'm going to go on hills here, and just by using a single object, I can show that, I have this in one direction here. I'm going to click another hill here, and it's not going to be exactly the same, but that's how you introduce some level of variation, and you can have interesting objects emerging. Okay, so that describes, I think I've taken enough of your precious time, but I wanted to basically to show one of the basic functionalities of this application. We'll have a look at the other deeper functionalities in the next video. If you find that this clip is interesting to you, if you have learned anything at all, please like and subscribe, and I look forward to hear from you. And if you have any questions, please write it down. I'll see you next time. Okay, so have a nice rest of your day. Thank you.